Hi and welcome. My name's Andy Torres. I'm the director at the American Embassy School, and I'm really happy to have everyone here for our webinar today on social emotional learning. This is one of many webinars that we've been doing on a variety of topics since late June. Today we have an amazing set of professionals here to tell you about our social emotional learning plans as we move forward toward our opening. For those of you who are still wondering or have not seen my messages up till now, we are opening online on August 4 for approximately 3 weeks. I think our time will be limited in the online setting if the virus trends continue in New Delhi as they are. We're watching this very carefully. Obviously, we're acting with an abundance of care for your children and for our faculty and staff and our community, and taking in the best advice from people from around the world and in India to make sure that we're meeting the safety needs of our children. And I think this topic today informs a lot of our concern for safety and security of our children and ultimately for our community as well. Today, I also want to make sure that you all understand about how you can ask us questions. And so if I can go to the next slide, David. In this webinar today, we've disabled the chat because we want to make sure that people are focusing on our Q&A. And our Q&A will be posted on an ongoing basis throughout this webinar. Our team is online and answering those questions as we are presenting. And so I encourage you to dive in and leave us a question. The best way to leave us a question is to leave it as a simple one-question statement. If you throw a bunch of questions in one question box, we have a hard time addressing those all at the same time. So don't be afraid to ask several questions over a period of the webinar. That's certainly expected and normal. A lot of people are doing that for us. It's very helpful for us to get these questions in front of us. We are tracking the parent questions along the way through all of these webinars, and it helps us to connect and understand our community's needs. I think community need is at the heart of where we are today as an organization. I refer you to our statement of our culture of belonging. We believe that we build from an internal strength from our diversity, and all of our teams, not our counselors, our leadership team, our teachers are committed to nurturing that culture of belonging throughout our school. And so we're going to support our children's academic growth, obviously, but this social and emotional growth piece is so important and at the heart of what is an amazing piece that is the American Embassy School. I'm going to turn the slides over to my colleague, Dr. Shirley Drosy. Shirley and I have been working closely together for the last many months, and I will allow her to get us started on the content of our program. Shirley.
Thanks, Andy. So I'm Shirley Drosy, and I'm the Director for Teaching and Learning at the school. And this will be my fourth year at the school. And a lot of the work that you're hearing about today has been ongoing in the school for certainly all the years I've been at the school. One of the pieces that we started working on 3 years ago was strengthening our program with counseling and with learning support services. And this year in particular, the importance of connection and caring and emotional stability in the classroom has been heightened even more through what we're learning about effective online programs. And so we are continuing our work on looking at best practices, not just in a regular classroom, but in the online learning environment, and that focus on social emotional support throughout the community. So as you hear our presentation today, you're going to hear a variety of ways that AES has been supporting and will continue to support and even step up our support for kids in this uncertain times, and also in that online environment, as Andy said, and as we move into hopefully back to campus soon. To enhance what the school delivers, we have partnered with a couple people, and going forward this year, we have a new partnership with Dr. Josephine Kim, who is a professor of counseling services at Harvard University. She will be joining us, and that means she will be doing some parent presentations this year, as well as working with our staff. And then we also have had for the last 2 or more years a partnership with the Truman Group. So Dr. Sean Truman is actually here with us today to talk a bit about the work that his group does and how he has been supporting us. So Sean, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thanks, Shirley. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you. As some of you may know, I've had the opportunity to be at the AES campus over the course of the last several years, a number of times. It's a remarkable school and really a remarkable collaboration. I know that the entire administration has really been dedicated to making sure that there is a strong emphasis on social and emotional learning as you enter the next year, which is, of course, given what everyone has been experiencing over the last 4 or 5 months, I think really an appropriate and very sensible thing to do. So what I want to do is just very briefly tell you a little bit about us and then talk about how we're involved in supporting the school. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of the Truman Group. We're a group of practice now of approximately 50 clinicians. We take care of people living internationally all around the world, and we do that work primarily remotely. In the course of that work, we have increasingly been involved in international school communities, including AES. And our work with AES, and with Shirley, I think, does go back 2 or 3 years now. We're a practice that provides direct services to members of the community, and we take care of a lot of people in New Delhi, and we take care of a lot of people in the AES community itself. But in addition to that direct service that we provide, we also are involved in helping steer some of the work that the school is doing with regard to providing support to kids and to members of the faculty as well and families in the community. I think one of the things I want to stress, and I'm not saying this as a Pollyanna, I don't work for AES. I'm a collaborator of AES, and I've been really struck by the dedication of the administration and the focus on really being thoughtful and intentional about doing the right things for the right reasons with regard to providing social and emotional support to your kids. And I think that that's really appropriate and actually central to the educational mission of the school as we go forward. I think that the primary problem that we're going to encounter as we re-enter normal school year is going to be the adjustment that's required from everyone as we go from this really difficult situation that we've all been through over the course of the last 5 or 6 months to getting back to a more normal platform. And I think that focusing on the emotional well-being of your children is absolutely central to the educational mission of the school. One of the things I would just want to add is the idea that as we re-enter the school year, I would really encourage you to be thoughtful about the key component here, which is that we want to help them adjust as they re-enter. The idea should not be that we're going to power through this and just inundate them with an endless stream of hours in front of screens. That in fact, the best practices here are very much in line with what your administration and your school is doing, which is to be very intentional and thoughtful about developing curriculum and delivery that is about focusing on not just the educational components, but also the emotional components of your children. One of the other things that the school has decided to do that I'm very supportive of is they want to make sure that this counseling department is well supported as well. Clearly, as everyone has struggled in the course of the last months, the burden on counselors is very high, and we expect it to be a busy period for them. The administration and the school has asked the Truman Group to be involved in helping support them professionally in terms of providing consultation and clinical backstops so that they are easily able to refer if they need help. Which brings me to the slide in front of you. You're always welcome to reach out directly to me. The name Lydia Carlson there that's below my email she is our practice manager, and she's the gate through which anybody who wants to get services directly with us needs to go. If you just email inquiries@trumangroup.com, it's a very simple and very sort of efficient way to be in touch with us. And then we'll have somebody respond and we can get you started with care. And so you should just know that there is this wraparound sort of coordinated effort here. The school has been very intentional and has done a lot of work behind the scenes. I'm going to call out Shirley. She and I have met many times over the course of the summer, and she has been tireless in her efforts to move this forward. We very much look forward to working with all of you, and our hope is that we're able to transition quickly back to a normal school year where everyone is back in the classroom.
Thank you, Sean. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. David Landis, who will be joining AES this year as the Director for Student Support Services. And David's coming from the US and having spent a number of years in a similar role in his previous school. And David will be the point person on helping to coordinate and align all of our programs in counseling, learning support, EAL, and other services that the school does offer. So David, I'm going to turn this over to you, and you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Thank you so much, Shirley. The first thing I'd like to say is, why AES? Looking at many schools across the world and domestically, when my wife and I had the opportunity to come to American Embassy School, we started researching the school, and we were immediately inundated with anecdotal examples and, a deep reputation for having a really strong sense of community at AES. And that is something that my wife and I really deeply value. We were also very moved by the school's inclusion statement, the culture of belonging statement. Many schools are claiming to be more inclusive and working at that. I think AES is really an industry leader and doing remarkable work in that area. And then, the third thing that really attracted me to the school is a long tradition of academic excellence. And I think when you blend those three elements together, strong sense of community, a deep and committed approach to being inclusive and supporting all learners, and a high aspirational effort towards academic excellence, you get what American Embassy School really is, which is really a top school in the world. And I couldn't be more excited to join the team. What are the roles and responsibilities of the Director of Student Support Services? Shirley alluded to that a little bit in her introduction, but there are sort of three main areas that I will be overseeing, and they are, to begin with, of course, learning support. And for me, this is really ensuring that every student achieves at his or her highest level. So it's a sort of uncompromising, determined effort to support students in every way we can so that they can really reach their potential. And English as another language is another area which I will be guiding and overseeing and supporting. Here too, the goal is not just to support the development of English language, but really to honor the multilingual gifts and cultural diversity that our multilingual students bring to our community while supporting their development of the English language. We've got another webinar, to make a plug for this, tomorrow, which will come out focused specifically on learning support, and English is another language. So if those are programs about which you are interested in learning more, please be sure to join us. And then, of course, that brings me to the counseling services. One thing I will say, we have many new counselors this year. I have met with all of them. While many teachers are taking a break in the summer, this counseling team has been at work. They've been reading, they've been communicating, planning, working with division leaders, thinking very intentionally about how they can lead the opening of school this year. Everything we read, everything we look at says paying careful, intentional attention to the social, emotional component of school life is paramount, heading back into schools settings, whether that's online or in person. So our counselors are very eager to get started. They are deeply committed to their work, and they bring a wealth of talent and a myriad of different kinds of experiences to the job. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our lead counselor, Miss Katie Tesreau, and she is going to be leading the counseling team this year. So Katie?
Thank you, David. I'm Katie Tesreau. I'm very excited to be returning to AES this year in the role of school psychologist. I am able to work with counselors and student support teams across divisions to support student learning. At AES, teams are really valued and working together to support students as well. We are very excited to have an all-school counseling team this year to plan for the social emotional learning needs of students. We also have student support teams that meet weekly by division to talk about students in need, plan interventions, monitor student progress, and just support students. As far as my role, I support students by completing evaluations to clarify their learning needs, work with students directly, and I always enjoy consulting with parents. So please call me if you have any questions or reach out by email. I would love to speak with you. Some parents contact me, especially if their students have been evaluated outside the school setting and they feel like their student could be better supported by the school team if the school is aware of their child's learning needs. But please reach out if you have any questions or concerns about your child's learning. I will pass it over to the elementary counseling team, Kelly Arrington and John Stein.
Thanks, Katie. My name is Kelly, and John and I wanted to do a brief introduction before we explain sort of what our tasks are going to be in our elementary division. So I am coming from Minneapolis Public Schools. I have done a lot of work with the mental health supports in our district. Prior to joining as a school social worker, I was actually a private practice therapist in a clinical setting. And I've made a very intentional switch to schoolwork. As we talk about the social emotional needs of kids, it really happens in a beautiful way in schools, and that was a very intentional move for me. And much like David said, I was very drawn to AES based on how embedded that work is in the high academic standards. So I'm really excited to join the community. I'll be joined with my husband, Jeremy, who won't be a part of the AES teaching community, but he certainly will be present in the larger AES community.
Hi, I'm John Stein. I'm going to be working with Kelly as the other elementary school counselor. I'm actually a New York State certified school psychologist. So I've worked in special education settings and very familiar with evaluations and supporting learning support staff. In my previous school, I was working at an international school on Jeju, South Korea. It was actually a founding school, and it was a really exciting and challenging opportunity to open a brand new school. And I'm really excited to be a part of AES, which has been, of course, well established and around for many, many years, and just really excited to work with a comprehensive, supportive team.
So in the elementary, one of the things that John and I really see as a privilege is that we get to work with multiple communities, students, teachers, and families. With our students, John and I are going to support all students. Teachers, we will partner with all grade levels, and really with families, we see you guys as experts of your students. You spend the majority of the time, and as Dr. Torres says, as we start with some online learning, you're going to play a really strong role in supporting your students, and so we are here as a support system to support you.
And with that said, we want to be available. We want to be as accessible as possible in our supports, and intentional in how we support our families, our students, and even our teachers and supportive staff. We offer individual support. We'll check in with students. We'll provide sessions to consult with parents. We'll make sure to facilitate reflective conversations and focus on strategies and solutions. And we'll also, of course, offer group support, and that we see that students are having similar challenges, and that we'll provide that opportunity to learn from one another. We also have the opportunity to connect with families, and if we feel that families would benefit from parent education or just conversations to talk about what's working and what's not, we can do that as well. Our main focus is we want to collaborate with our team and really assess and be intentional with the needs that we see in our community.
Hey, David, can you go back one slide? Back one slide. There we go. So we're still on this one. So the other part of what we're saying, and Sean mentioned this, is the circumstance that we're all in right now is ever changing. And so John and I have a commitment to always be assessing students, to be in contact with families and with teachers. And as needs grow, as different stressors come up, the way we support you can absolutely change, right? And so as John mentioned, that it could be that we connect with a student individually, but if we have a group of kids that all are sort of presenting with a similar presentation of, you know, maybe they're having a hard time waking up in the morning or not really wanting to engage in their work, we can put groups together. And so know that we will always be reflecting on how we're best supporting you, and we can change that as needed. All right, next one, David.
And of course, the reason why we're all together talking about social emotional learning is because we recognize that not only physical health is important, but our students' mental well-being, their mental health, their social emotional functioning. So that is our emphasis. That is what we put at the center of our services. And we want to provide that support and be able to teach our students how to manage this really disruptive time in their lives. We recognize that, and we want to help them through that, whether it's talking about managing stress or just understanding and having an opportunity to talk about their feelings during this time, and coming up with strategies and ways to meet their needs, especially during this different format of connected campus learning.
And as mentioned in some of AES's mission statements and belief systems, you know, we believe in the SEL acquirement, the skills for our students always. So as we're talking about how we will support students that are presenting with some needs, we also see the importance of proactively supporting our students, because it's natural in their development to acquire a lot of these skills in elementary, right? And so we will be doing a lot of connecting with kids who are maybe doing lovely during this time, and it's still important for them to acquire skills and learn how to do stress management or learn some emotional regulation, right? And so we want you as families to know that yes, we're here to support some of the students that may be experiencing a bit more stress, but we're also here to support students in their healthy, naturally development.
And with that said, one of the first major efforts we're going to do is reach out to our families. As you know, we're brand new to AES, and we're really excited to be a part of the community. And we really want to get to know you and get to know our students. So we'll be starting to reach out to some families and students from last year, and you know, offer an opportunity for us to connect. If you are available, of course, you know, that's optional. If we understand that there's a lot going on, especially in the beginning of the year, so please don't hesitate to reschedule or let us know that later in the year is better for you.
Absolutely. And our last action step right now is, you know, they've mentioned that counselors are working, but we have a lot of colleagues that have been working in the summer, and a group of those colleagues are our team leads for each grade level. So we are meeting with them to really hear how can we partner with each grade and potentially do some joining with some of their synchronous learning and to be a part of that instruction, because we want all the students to know who we are, certainly you as families to know who we are. So I speak for John when I say we're both really excited to be a part of this. John and I have gotten some time to be together virtually, and I am really happy to be a partner with him, and we're looking forward to meeting all of you when we can. So next up, I will pass it on to our middle school team.
Thank you, Kelly. Hi, everyone. My name is My name is Carly Anderson, and I will be joining AES as a middle school counselor. I'm so excited to be joining the community this year. I am a social worker, and for the past 3 years, I've been living and working in South Korea, working with middle and high school students. I'm originally from California, and I was living in New York for about 6 years before moving to Korea. So I'm so excited to be joining you all in India and to be a part of AES. And I'll pass it to Jonathan to introduce himself as well.
My name is Jonathan Webster. This is my 5th year being in, for 5 years I've been a part of the AES Middle School, and I'm well aware of what an amazing place it is and some of the amazing work that's been done to increase our cultural belonging and increase our inclusion. You can go to the next slide, please.
So in the middle school, we really are focused on relationships and building community. We've intended to do this and have previously through advisory programs, grade level programming, forts, and of course, counseling services. So in regards to counseling services, we provide strengths-based individual, group, and class-wide services with a focus on social emotional learning, well-being, mental health, community and belonging, and empowerment. It's really important to us to promote a culture of inclusion. We work very closely with EAL and learning support specialists, and of course, Katie, the school psychologist. So it's really important that we support a diverse group of students, and we work very hard to do that. We also support development through the middle school years by teaching and learning about life skills such as coping skills, communication, how to deal with a challenging time such as, the pandemic that currently is affecting all of our students and families. And development stages such as identity and, developmental milestones that are so important. So we are really excited to be working with our students and families around these areas. And I'm going to pass it to Jonathan to talk about communication and how to reach out to us moving forward.
You go to the next slide, please. As Dr. Torres said in the beginning of our presentation, community needs are really at the heart of our conversation today. But even after the conversation today, it remains the heart of the conversations in the counseling office, specifically regarding that social emotional support. As we start with a connected classroom online format, that partnership is going to be even more crucial than ever. And that partnership where you can reach out to us and let us know some concerns that you have, some challenges that you're seeing. And then we, as counselors, end up being in the middle of that partnership and pulling in teachers, pulling in ELD maybe ELD resources, and we get to really be in the center of that connection between you and the school and your children's learning. And oftentimes that connection can begin as simple as an email to let us know who you are and what you're dealing with and what your challenges are and what you might need support with during this very, very challenging time. Our emails are there, so you can please reach out to us at any time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angela Mack, and I'll be speaking on behalf of the high school counseling team. And I just want to echo Jonathan's sentiments about reaching out to your counselors, because we are the center, I would say, a bridge between your student and the school when it comes to concerns. We have 4 counselors in the high school. We have 3 comprehensive counselors, which university and academic counseling is included. So Christina Alcos will counsel students last names A through H, Alan Graveson, last names I through O, and Richard Thompson, last names P through Z. And again, I'm Angela Mack. I'm the social emotional counselor of the entire high school. And I am as well coming from Jeju, South Korea as an elementary school counselor, and Seoul, Korea as a high school counselor. And prior to that, I was a high school counselor in Washington, DC. And in the high school, the culture of belonging is also extremely important to us. So at the beginning of the school year, and starting in August, our goal is to meet with every single student. And we're gonna start that with myself, starting with all referrals from counselors and faculty referrals, excuse me, and reaching out to all grade 9 students and 10, 11, and 12. As with the comprehensive school counselors, they will be reaching out to all new students and then seniors 11, 10, and 9. And we're doing that very intentionally. With grade 9s and new students, they're going to be new to high school or new to Delhi. So they're gonna have some very specific needs and very specific concerns. And we want to be able to listen to them. We want to be able to hear them and address those concerns. And with grade 12, of course, this is a time of their senior years of IB or AP and university counseling. So we want to get that ball rolling as well. We also have what we call our home base, which is our advisory program, and it meets weekly. We're looking to expand that program, but what that program specifically is to build peer-to-peer relationships, as well as introducing another caring adult. And for all new students, we have ambassadors. So another student, or what I like to say, a built-in friend for when they get to Delhi or starting AES. These ambassadors should have already reached out to your students. So if they have not, could you please email me so I can make sure your ambassadors have reached out to your new students. For all freshmen, we have what we call the freshman seminar. And this seminar meets once every 8 days in our 8-day cycle. This year, due to the global pandemic, we're also gonna invite all new students. And this is another reason or another place to build community and relationships, but also how to be successful in high school. But while we're online, we are going to do something a little bit different, what we're calling the first 8 days. And the first 8 days is going to be a bit different than what we did last semester. And it's going to be very intentional on building relationships and building community. Just to echo what everybody has been saying, all the research has shown that relationships need to be built. And in the first 8 days, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build relationships, and we're gonna have lessons on how to be successful online, from organizing your laptops and study tips, and everything else that your students will want to know. So we're currently building that, and then we're gonna slowly introduce the teachers and then the academics. And now I'm gonna send it off back to David.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you all counselors, and of course, Katie as our lead school psychologist. The one thing I hope that you as parents can recognize from this webinar is that we are really working hard, and we are being very intentional about how we're providing social and emotional support to students at each stage of their development. You know, there were some clear themes all throughout this presentation. I think at the top of the list would be that we are here for you. We want to hear from you as parents. We want to support you. We want to give you the skills that you need to be successful in supporting your students as they encounter the connected classroom and the connected campus program. You know, it's very important to us that we get off to a really strong start this fall, and look forward to having students back on campus and to being back in community and celebrating that. So at this point, I think we are ready to move to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So we're happy to take your questions as they come, and we will do our best to provide answers. Hello, everyone. Maybe I'll sort of start things off by just saying we are so excited that so many parents have joined us today for this webinar. We've really been looking forward to this moment, having an opportunity to speak directly to the parent body about how hard we're working to make sure that we're thinking intentionally about building community and making connections with your children as they sort of re-enter life at AES, whether that's online and or in person, however that may unfold. We do have some questions coming in, which is really great to see some response from parents. I thought maybe following up on a previous question about how elementary school students are assigned to the counseling team. Kelly provided an answer to that question. I thought Charles might want to weigh in a little bit and just explain that philosophy of how that's being handled, and then we'll look to some other questions.
Hi, everyone. In terms of assigning counselors in the elementary, we realize that there are going to be specific situations where Kelly and Jonathan have to take a certain grade level. For instance, as we talk about them popping into synchronous things in the first few weeks and being part of the teachers group meeting with kids, we'll have to assign them and break that out and share the workload. One of the things though that we really want to make sure to everyone is that every student and every parent feels that they are approachable at any time. That if your student happened to feel more comfortable approaching one or the other of them, that's perfectly okay. Again, that's us trying to meet the needs of all students, and the idea being we want students to feel comfortable and secure in our environment. So there will be some occasions where they're assigned, and that may be the first face that your students see, but we really are trying to create an environment for our families and students that allow them to have some choice, that allow them to go where they feel most comfortable, particularly in these early days.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. There's another really good question here from Vandana Stapleton, looking at the first 8 days and asking this question about synchronous and asynchronous and time zones. This is a complicated question. I'm not sure who the best person to speak to this is. Maybe Nada, you could talk a little bit, because I know we're using a variety of strategies across the 3 divisions to address this synchronous and asynchronous challenge with regards to time zones.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. Thanks, David. And I'm sure that my colleagues can jump in and share as well. We're really cognizant of some of the challenges of supporting across all of our time zones, but we're also extremely committed to making sure that all of our students feel as engaged and all of our families feel as engaged as possible as we go through this. One of the things that really became clear to us as we worked through our continuous learning in the latter part of the academic year last year is that our campus and our community is much greater than the facilities that we sit on. It's much greater than the buildings that represent our campus. And so finding ways to enhance and build those connections are really important for us. And so that whole social emotional connected piece that we're focusing on, to the whole idea of entrenching ourselves within our community, is going to help our students thrive in every other aspect of their success beyond social emotional, relational, and academic. We know that we're seeking opportunities for kids so that nobody's getting up extremely early, nobody's staying awake extremely late in the evening, that we'll try and find what that anchor is for reasonable hours, knowing that perhaps the stamina for a 15-year-old might push a little bit later into the evening than it might for some of our elementary students. And that's within your own time zones, not just within India. So paying attention to that full balance, although we know that not every experience will be replicated across time zones. We're looking for a mix of asynchronous and synchronous opportunities for students to be able to access counselors, teachers, others within the community when they need to and I say students, but really students and families, when they need to connect with somebody, finding that flexibility within our schedules wherever we're based to make sure that we're getting the support to families as needed.
Yeah.
Nada, can I jump
Thank you,
in
Nada.
and speak specifically about the
Shirley?
first
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Angela, first.
to speak for
Ah,
specifically about the first 8 days in the high school, with the time zone teachers, the intent is for it to be synchronous. We will not be recording the lessons in the high school for the first 8 days. And so that's why we have specific time zone teachers. So it could be plus or minus 1 or 2 hours for all the students. And to answer somebody else's questions, that's how we're attempting to facilitate relationships beyond beyond the limits, or excuse me, beyond the limits of our physical spaces. So each time zone team will be roughly, we're still getting the numbers in about where everybody is located around the world, but we're hoping for a small cohort of maybe 6 to 8, maybe 10 students per time zone team in the first 8 days, so that they can create these tighter relationships, tighter bonds as they go into their classrooms the next week.
yeah, that's great. Shirley?
Yeah, and I would chime in that we know that this is high concern for everybody, and the work that the counselors, and actually we've had a task force last year of, what did we call it? The Social Emotional Behavioral Task Force, taking a look at how can we make sure that we have a foundational thread throughout the school that deals with the needs of children and young adults as they develop, and and we pay attention to that whole child piece. And social emotional wellness stems from kids feeling secure and trusting their peers and their teachers. And also an important piece of this is the school partnering with you as parents, and knowing that those partnerships and that your child feeling supported on all fronts. And so we know that all of this is key to being a caring community, and know that there's a huge body of research out there on social emotional learning, and the school teachers and counselors and administrators are drawing from that body of research. There are webinars being offered across this school year as well, even during this summer, that some of our staff are involved in. So please know that it's a high priority and we take it seriously.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, team. There's a lot of great questions coming in. Farbad Yousefi has some really thoughtful question, and I thought maybe Charles could respond to that.
Sure. So part of what our program is going to be in the elementary is to provide regular opportunities for social interaction within the grade level. The counselors can certainly be a part of that, will be a part of that, but that will be there. That will be integrated into what we do on a regular basis for as long as we are in a virtual online mode. In terms of ambassadors in the elementary, that gets a little complicated because we have such a wide variance. I mean, a 6-year-old being an ambassador is difficult to organize and have that, because now you're putting responsibility back on adults and parents to make sure those meetings happen and to follow up. We also feel that in those environments, it's important for our teachers to be there as kids are developing their social norms and understanding of what groups and what's appropriate behavior and what's going on in a virtual world. So we really felt like, for us, we wanted that time and those social interactions in the beginning to be structured and guided by teachers. So so I've mentioned this in the elementary webinars up to this point, but we're committed in that first week, 5 to 8 days of instruction in the virtual mode in the elementary is that we're not jumping right in, as Sean said earlier, we're not jumping straight into instruction and here's your assignment for today and this has to be done by this day. We are going to spend significant time at the beginning of school creating an environment where our students feel connected and safe, And we will also, along the way, as we're doing that, get them familiar with tools, familiar with each other, so that when we do begin to go to the curriculum and have those lessons and that content instruction, they have the confidence and security that they're going to be successful. But we just think in the elementary that that type of community building in this virtual environment is best done with the guidance of teachers. So I hope that helps you out, Forbo.
Yeah, that's great, Charles. Ilva, you said suggested maybe you wanted to make a comment on this question.
No, actually, I wanted to pass it on to Jonathan Webster, who takes care of the middle school student ambassador. And thanks for being here, Farbod.
Yeah, I'm very glad that that question came up, because I failed to mention the middle school ambassadors. And actually, I just met with them before coming to this meeting. So it was really exciting for us to get some of that work done. One of the big roles of the peer ambassadors is to welcome, in the middle school anyways, is to welcome the new students that are coming. And so we usually pair grade 8s with grade 8s, grade 7s with grade 7s. This year, and this gets to another question about grade 6 peer ambassadors specifically, usually in the spring, we take a cohort of grade 5s that are eligible to be a peer ambassador, and we train them up. And a lot of that training involves the physical setting of school and the scheduling, the schedules, educating them on that so they are able to answer those questions. With us not being in school this in the spring on campus, it was difficult to do that. So we haven't had grade 6 ambassadors enroll in the program yet. That will be the plan, and we will make sure that the services that the grade 6s would receive from the peer ambassadors will be received. So when they come, they will have a buddy, they will have a contact person. But just to be transparent, the grade 6s, for them, that's not established yet. So this week, for all new students, they should be contacted by one of the middle school peer ambassadors to initiate that welcoming and that sense of belonging. The other question that came up specifically for middle school is, what is our split? Last year and at the end of last year, we decided we would continue with a similar split that we had last year, which was having one counselor doing grade 6 and 8, a split of grade 6 and 8, and then the other counselor doing a split of grade 6 and grade 7. The way that it's set up right now currently is that I would do grade 8 and the first alpha set of grade 6. So that would be A to K. Carly would be taking L to Z in grade 6 and also grade 7. This was a format that we had last year, and it worked quite successfully. 3 grades, 2 teachers, 2 counselors. So that is how, like I say, moving into this year, that is what we've established for this year. And just while I've got the floor,
Jonathan.
While I've got the floor, just another question came in.
Good.
About,
okay, great.
can a grade 6 child volunteer to be a peer ambassador? I would ask them to just email me directly, and that would be the best way we can move forward with that.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I don't see any more open questions at this point. That's great. I really hope we've been able to address your concerns. Andy, would you like to say a few words as we prepare to close down this webinar?
Thanks, David, and thank you to all of our panelists. I think I continue to be impressed and amazed by the depth of talent at this school. It's one of the things, you mentioned the amazing focus on academics and learning and community, David. When visiting the campus, was sort of just awestruck by the amazing talent that is within this organization. It's an honor to work in this school with these people. Tomorrow, we are doing another webinar on our learning support and our English as an additional language programs. I know many people have some questions on the delivery model and what that looks like in the online environment. And again, another parade of amazing, talented people coming to speak to you about the programs here at AES. Shirley, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, we are we're all in this together. And I think an important piece for you as parents to know too is that some of the counselors every year at AES run parent coffees about key topics across the year. That will continue. And Dr. Sean Truman and Dr. Josephine Kim will also be offering parent webinars. Sean actually offered 2 parent webinars in May, and those were well attended. And we also have those folks, of course, working with our faculty. So just know that the support and the education and the assurance of what we're doing is an ongoing effort with the school.
Yeah, and I guess that, one of the things that, and I see this last question coming up around stigma and concern and stress around COVID, and if a child becomes a COVID positive, is there going to be some concerns for that individual child? And that's certainly a big question that schools are dealing with all over the world. And I'm going to tell you directly that our team is prepared to deal with that. I mean, I think this is a reality of our current situation. We're going to be accessing the best talent and the best research and the best advice, thanks to our partners like Dr. Truman and his group and other schools around the world. But the bottom line is we're all in this together. We know that some people are going to have COVID or have had COVID, and we're going to be able to, certainly understand and embrace that. I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and decides they're going to get this disease. And I think we all have to realize that that's kind of part of the reality of where we are in this world right now. We're open, armed, and well, it goes to the heart of our culture of belonging. And so let's just realize that we're here to support each other. Thank you very much so much for the questions this morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Dr. Truman, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your partnership. Sean and I have not had an opportunity to meet personally, nor to have any conversations, but I look forward to doing so in the coming months. And I will let us sign off. We'll answer a couple last questions here online if you have them as we wrap up here for the next couple of minutes. Thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.